Alright, what's happening, y'all, man? What a win, man. That was a crazy win. That was a typical win of a Rivera-style team. I feel like overall we outplayed them in a lot of different ways, but when Rivera's your head coach and with how passive he gets at the end of games, you typically, even when you win, it's going to be close, even if you severely outplayed the opponent. I mean, we had the ball for 37 minutes. They only had the ball for 22 minutes and 53 seconds. Like, we literally was just a better team. We were more disciplined. We converted third downs better. They went 0 for 6 on third downs. We went 7 for 16. They were 0 of 1 on fourth downs. Only times they were converting third downs was the penalties. That was literally it. And a couple of them were questionable, but that one Kendall Fuller one before the touchdown was like clearly on him. But either way, I just feel like we severely outplayed them. But when Taylor Heinicke's your quarterback and Ron Rivera's your head coach, games are going to be close and nail biting and all the way to the very end no matter what. I mean, they had 232 total yards. We had 364, time of possession, everything, first downs, third downs, all of that. We literally outplayed them in every statistical category, but we're sitting there biting our nails to the very end. They're almost in field goal range. An extra 15 seconds, maybe they run another play and get in field goal range and we lose, man. But either way, a win is a win. We're starting a win streak. I mean, don't call it a comeback now. We are 3-4. Now, granted, we picked a really bad year to be average, to below average, whatever you want to call this, even though our defense started to play really well. We're going to talk about that. But the NFC East went from the NFC least to the NFC beast right now. I mean, everybody is balling. The Giants are 6-1. I believe the Cowboys are 6-1. The Eagles are still undefeated, but that's to be determined by the end of this weekend. It's like really ridiculous. Like, we picked the worst time to be 3-4. 3-4 2 years ago, we're probably first in the division during the Ben DiNucci year and all of that type of stuff. But 3-4 this year, with the NFC East statistically being the best division in football, we just picked the worst time to be average, man. But going from Carson Wentz to Taylor Heinicke did give us a spark. We're gonna dive into all of that though. Y'all know Rico of Street Scores. When we do these game reviews, we're gonna go position group by position group. We're gonna talk about specific plays, but most importantly, we're gonna go player by player. We're gonna talk about Taylor Heinicke, whether I still want to go with Sam Howell or not. We're going to talk about Terry McLaurin, each receiver, even Cam Sims. We're going to talk about every defensive lineman, every offensive lineman, all of that, man. Y'all know how these Rico of Street Scores game reviews go. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Sunday for the live play-by-play analysis, live streams like we just did for this Packers game. I'm doing it for every regular season game, and dare I say, you know, I'm trying to speak it into existence, every postseason game as well. I will be there live streaming and giving a play-by-play breakdown of everything going on for every regular season game. So make sure y'all pull up, man, for that. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, now, so starting with the quarterbacks, Taylor Heinicke, terrible in the first half. I mean, honestly, Taylor Heinicke in the first half was probably worse than any version of Carson Wentz we've gotten this year. I mean, missing guys wide open. He threw that hospital ball to Cole Turner that ended up getting him hurt. He threw it up and behind, too high and behind. How do you throw somebody that big too high? Twice, one time in the end zone for a fade route touchdown, and then later on for a first down, I think it was like third down or something, and it went in Cole Turner's hands. You would still hope he catches it, but it was too high and too far behind, whereas if the guy had the whole sideline, it's Cole Turner, defender, sideline, plenty of space, just throw it out. He's good. He probably catches it, goes out of bounds, drive keeps going. He's healthy. He's still in the game. We already have Logan Thomas out, and John Bates is playing, but he's dealing with injuries. Now Cole Turner's out with a concussion. And then he was throwing hospital balls to Terry. I mean, literally out of his first, I think, 7 pass attempts, 5 of them literally went into a defender's hands, like literally in their hands and dropped. A couple of times Terry had to literally turn into Jair Alexander himself, literally had to switch roles to try to get the ball out of a DB's hands. It was terrible. It was so sad. The first half, I already wanted Sam Howell to start, but the first half was like, see, this is why I want Sam Howell to start. My whole point was, even if Taylor Heinicke may be the better quarterback today, if you start Sam Howell now, maybe within a few weeks, Sam Howell is the better quarterback. He gives you the arm strength of Carson Wentz and the legs and a team just want to run through a brick wall for you and rally everybody. Infectious energy that Taylor Heinicke brings, of course, along with the legs as well and the ability to extend plays, while our offensive line hasn't been as good as we expected, but they've been better the past couple of weeks, but they're not what we expected them to be. And so that's why it was smart, even if Carson Wentz weren't hurt, to go with the guy with some legs. But that first half just reaffirmed everything I thought going into the game. It's easily Sam Howell time. I mean, there was a certain point where the score literally should have just been 20-7. Without the pick six from Taylor Heinicke and the missed field goal from Joey Sly, at some point, it literally should have been 20-7. Our defense only gave up 14 points. Remember that. We won 23-21. Taylor Heinicke threw an interception in that first half. A pick six, and a lot of them should have been intercepted. There were like 7 more that should have, that literally went into a DB's hands in the first half alone. But then, and again, I mean, the first half he was inaccurate. He was not reading the field. Guys were open. Cole Turner was open one time over the middle for a third down, threw it to a contested Terry McLaurin. Missed Terry McLaurin open some plays. Missed Dax Milne on some type of corner fade route where like literally the only safety was in the middle of the field and then the linebacker was down here. Dax Milne had the entire like 30-yard of space of the field that way if Taylor Heinicke would have thrown it. Didn't see him, didn't throw it. I mean, he was like abysmal in the first half. Like literally, Terry had that one fumble that we got bailed out on with a penalty. But then the second half, Taylor Heinicke did Taylor Heinicke things. I'm not going to say he was great, and he didn't necessarily make up for what he did in the first half, but he became a way better quarterback. Again, he wasn't great, but it was way better than what we got in the first half. That deep bomb to Terry was amazing. He started hitting guys in stride to where they can catch the ball and not immediately get lit up. He was able to like receivers and running backs, when they caught the ball, were able to actually have time to make a move and do something rather than reaching low or reaching high to get it. By the time they're set, the DB is already there to blow him up and hit him. That contributes to hospital balls. But yeah, the second half, he just became more accurate. He still wasn't very accurate, but he became more accurate. He started using his legs a little bit more. That D-bomb to Terry was his best throw of the day easily. That was by far, that's one of his best throws of his career, because it wasn't even like the Falcons game where some of those throws, like that one Terry McLaurin touchdown, where he just threw it up, just F it. Terry McLaurin down there somewhere, he'll try to get it. And literally, like, Terry McLaurin had to come back contested and make a contested catch to get it. Awful throw. Completely awful throw. Today, that throw to Terry McLaurin was like a perfect dot. Couldn't have thrown it any better, any place better. Probably Taylor Heinicke's best throw of his lifetime, to be completely honest. I'm not going to lie. So overall, Taylor Heinicke, if I had to give him a grade, I'd give him like a C. Because again, the second half, he was still doing a lot of the same mistakes, but he did become a little bit more accurate, and Scott Turner started to open up the playbook a little bit more to allow him a little bit more freedom. I still don't know why we're not running read option with him, because we ran read option out of Wildcat with Armani Rogers one time. We still like refuse to do it with Taylor Heinicke for some reason. Maybe we ran it once or twice that I didn't notice, but I feel like that's something we could do constantly with him. Either way, he opened the playbook up for him definitely more in the second half. The first half was definitely more of like a vanilla offense. But again, when Taylor Heinicke's your starting quarterback, everything deep is pretty much just taken out of the playbook. I'm surprised we even tried that Terry McLaurin thing, and I'm even more surprised that Taylor Heinicke delivered on it. But I'm super happy. I'm super proud. Y'all know me, man. I want to see Sam Howell out there, because again, for the most part, I just want to know what we have in him before we hit the draft, before we don't take a top quarterback, because we're like, we still don't know what we have in Howell and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Taylor Heinicke is from the Metro Atlanta area. I'm rooting for him. I want him to be great. Y'all know I root for all of my Atlanta and Georgia guys, whether they went to UGA or if they're born and raised in Georgia, outskirts of Atlanta. That's why I root for Antonio Gibson so hard, Montez Sweat, Jamin Davis, all of these guys, even Alex Armah, the fullback. I root for these guys so hard, but when they're bad, I'm on their head more than anybody else. I expect more out of them. So I really want Taylor Heinicke to be great, but I just think, honestly, Sam Howell makes the most sense. But still, great way to turn around in the second half. I don't know what halftime speech somebody gave. It was probably Terry McLaurin, because this was the most fired up I've ever seen him. I can't wait to talk about Terry McLaurin. Oh my God. This is my favorite Terry McLaurin day of all time. It's not even close. This is even better than when he killed Trevon Diggs on that double move and was talking trash. This was like the ultimate Terry McLaurin day. I'm gonna explain why later. But man, Terry McLaurin was special today. But going back to Taylor Heinicke, I mean, I don't know who gave the speech. I don't know if it was Rivera. Like, if y'all don't get it together, we're all gone. I'm fired. You're probably getting released because the next regime probably isn't going to want you, Heinicke. I don't know what they told him. I don't know if it was Terry getting in his face, whatever. Whatever they told Taylor Heinicke, he figured it out and got it together. I mean, like I said, even in halftime, during the halftime break, I was like, Taylor Heinicke's one of those guys, though, that once he gets a little bit of momentum and he starts to feel comfortable, because he was playing straight up scared and panicking in the first half, but once he makes a couple of little short throws and gets into somewhat of a rhythm, using his legs, making plays, getting the feel of the game, he becomes a better quarterback. So I was like, don't be surprised if he comes out the second half and plays better. Again, I'm not saying he played great, because again, even in the second half when he was making plays, there was still a lot of plays left on the field, honestly. But that was a way better Taylor Heinicke in that second half than that first half, for sure. It's not even close. And then, I mean, outside of that, again, I would still like to see Sam Howell at least start a few games this season so we can know, like, because first of all, don't let a 5th round pick, even though I like Sam Howell and I'm excited about him potentially being the franchise quarterback for this team, don't let a 5th round pick stop you from taking a 1st round quarterback if you think Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or whoever is the guy. Right now, we're winning games, so that's not really the focus. Really shouldn't be talking draft this much. But my point is, even after a game like that from Taylor Heinicke, I'm still pro Sam Howell, because again, Taylor Heinicke did everything he could to lose that game in the first half. We shouldn't have even been losing. It shouldn't have been, 14-10 entering halftime, because he gave the Packers 7 points and Joey Slye missed a field goal. And we should have honestly have converted some of those first downs to where Joey Slye wouldn't have even been in a position to miss a field goal. We should have scored touchdowns instead of field goals at times because of Taylor Heinicke. But that second half, he played better. Again, I won't necessarily go all the way to say that he played very well. He had a couple of splash plays, but I'm just really happy that he played well enough to get this dub. And also, before we move on to the rest of the players, Scott Turner, man, I don't know why he gets so much hate. Scott Turner called probably one of his best games today. Now, granted, just based on what he's done throughout this entire season, I wouldn't be mad if people feel like he shouldn't be fired. Like, if you feel like he should be fired by the end of the season because what he's done overall, I'm not mad at you, even though it hasn't been his fault more than anybody else. It was offensive line the first few games, and it was Carson Wentz a mix in there for the last couple, and then the offensive line has been playing a little bit better, even though they haven't been great. And then Taylor Heinicke was missing open receivers and selling the game away in the first half, and then continued to miss open receivers sometimes in the second half. But Scott Turner called some amazing plays. All of them touches that Curtis Samuel got, some of those throws from Taylor Heinicke to Terry McLaurin, even the one, the throw to Cam Sims in the red zone, that was a pre-snap, predetermined play. That wasn't like Taylor Heinicke scanned the field and was like, I'm going to throw it to this guy after I looked at these other guys. You could tell, ball snap, I'm throwing it to Cam Sims before. I mean, that was the play that was called by Scott Turner. Scott Turner schemed open Armani Rogers a lot. Cole Turner was open often, but Taylor Heinicke just happened to be extremely inaccurate before he got hurt. But luckily for Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Armani Rogers, and Antonio Gibson, and Brian Robinson, Taylor Heinicke started to become a little bit more accurate as they got open. But poor Cole Turner was open left and right because of Scott Turner, but Taylor Heinicke just wasn't hitting them in the first half. But Scott Turner called a crazy game today. You gotta, again, I'll call out Scott Turner when he's not calling plays well. Like I already said, my general synopsis of him, my general feelings towards him are that he's a great play designer, but he's not a good play caller. He's bad at calling plays in the flow of the game, right time, right play, right situation. He's bad at that. But today, he called a crazy game. This is arguably one of his best called games, and we don't win this game if Scott Turner doesn't call plays the way he did today. The way Curtis Samuel was getting the ball out of the backfield, Antonio Gibson, the balance between him and Brian Robinson to wear down the defense, Antonio Gibson to take advantage of the defense playing slower and being tired, taking stuff outside, making people miss, getting yards after the catch and things like that. We were putting guys in opportunities to make plays all day. Scott Turner, I mean, he wasn't as bad as Taylor Heinicke in the first half at all, because again, guys were open, but he definitely became like a great play caller in that second half. Now, hopefully this can continue to another game. Hopefully this is just a thing that happened, or it's not just an anomaly. We'll see. But as of right now, Scott Turner called a hell of a game today. Overall this season, can't necessarily say that, and I can see why people want him fired. But when we were in the middle of the game and people were blaming the first half on Scott Turner, that was just blasphemous, because that was clearly Taylor Heinicke more than anybody else. But moving on, running backs, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, love the 1-2 punch from them. Absolutely love it. We need that all the time. I love the fact that Brian Robinson's getting a lot of carries, but don't forget about Antonio Gibson, because he does things nobody else on his team can do. Maybe only Curtis Samuel, maybe Jahan Dotson can do some of those things agility-wise and making guys miss in the open field that Antonio Gibson can do. And then that touchdown catch, that was such a beautiful... Going back to Scott Turner, that play call, you could tell Taylor Heinicke was supposed to throw the ball to Antonio Gibson. That whole thing was set up for Gibson to get open past the linebackers in zone coverage. So that's another credit that goes to Scott Turner as well. But that was also a really good throw from Taylor Heinicke. Got to give him credit. I mean, it wasn't a great throw, wasn't the most accurate, but Antonio Gibson did a good job of bringing it down. But it was still a good throw. But it was a better play call by Scott Turner and a great catch by Antonio Gibson. Great route. Use Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson the way you did today constantly. Throw Curtis Samuel in there every now and then like you did today as well. And throw J.D. McKissic in there as well. We have too many weapons for us not to be balling out like this all the time. But yeah, man, Brian Robinson, 20 carries for 73 yards, almost had his first 100-yard game. It's going to be difficult for him to do that because Antonio Gibson had 10 carries, Curtis Samuel had 5. But I like it like that. I mean, of course, I would love for Brian Robinson to get his first 100-yard rushing game. He's going to have to do that from breaking off a long run. But, I mean, all of them had a couple of good runs. Brian Robinson's longest run was 24 yards. Antonio Gibson's was 20. And Curtis Samuel's was 16. But Taylor Heinicke barely even scrambled today. He technically only had 2 carries for 4 yards, which I'm surprised about. Well, technically his longest one was 5 yards, but when you take a sack, you know, that technically takes away some of your rushing yards, sadly, for a quarterback. But he didn't run as much as I expected, but the running backs did their thing, man. J.D. McKissic had that one drop that made me mad, but other than that, Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, that's literally what we need. Brian Robinson get more in carries, Antonio Gibson getting more passes, but also getting carries. And don't forget Brian Robinson in the passing game as well. One of those screen passes to him, I think it picked up a nice little first down. That was a good play as well. Do not forget Brian Robinson in the screen game. He had 2 catches for 13 yards, while Antonio Gibson had 3 catches for 18 yards and 1 touchdown. Again, that touchdown was crazy. Now moving on to the receivers. Great game from everybody, man. I think just in general. I mean, we miss Jahan Dotson, clearly. Jahan Dotson out there, we probably win by even more points. I mean, it's just completely different. But Terry McLaurin was in his bag. We're going to come back to him because we got to save him for last out of the receiver group. Curtis Samuel made so many clutch plays, good catches, tough catches, inaccurate throws from Taylor Heinicke hospital balls, but he would bring it in for the first down. He had, again, 26 yards rushing and 53 yards receiving. If you have him in fantasy, even though he didn't get a touchdown, he probably put up some pretty good fantasy points today. And then you also had Armani Rogers active. We're going to get to the tight ends later, but Cam Sims, that one catch that he had, that was a big play. Shouts out to Scott Turner for dialing that one up. And I just liked what I saw from the receivers overall. Again, we missed Jahan Dotson, but they did their thing. Terry McLaurin, man, now it's time. That was my favorite performance from him of all time. It wasn't his best game statistically, but it was one of his most clutch and most importantly, the passion. Before we get to the passion, though, he had 8 targets. Thank you. Finally. I don't know why it takes so much and why it takes so long for us to finally target Terry McLaurin enough. I still think he should get double-digit targets every game, but like I said, it wasn't that many plays out there to be had. Ron Rivera loves to run the ball, especially with a lead because he doesn't want to risk it. He's conservative like that, so it is what it is. But at the end, we actually got a little aggressive and started throwing Terry McLaurin the ball, even though it was kind of like on third downs we were forced to. But still, man, Terry McLaurin came up clutch. 5 receptions, 73 yards, and that great catch on that beautiful deep bomb from Taylor Heinicke, probably his best throw of his life. But again, 8 targets for him, 8 targets for Curtis Samuel as well. But Terry McLaurin, man, the hype, the energy, man, I was feeling it today. Y'all know me, man. I'm the Adam Pac-Man Jones and Cam Newton personality type of guy. The trash talkers, the arrogance, the confidence, the all of that. But granted, I'm biased. Cam Newton and Adam Pac-Man Jones went to my high school along with Malik Willis. That's why I root for him so hard. So, you know, AJ Terrell as well, a few guys. But that, I mean, I'm kind of biased towards them, but the same thing stands. I love personality, I love arrogance, I love trash talking, I love all of it. So Marshawn Lynch, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, as long as he's not being a bonehead. Chad Johnson is still my favorite receiver of all time because of his personality. Terry McLaurin was giving me some of that today. I already loved Terry McLaurin, but today took it to a new height, man. Y'all saw that after that deep bomb from Taylor Heinicke, how much trash he was talking to everybody. Then he went to He was in Taylor Heinicke's face talking crazy. You know how Taylor Heinicke already hype himself. Terry McLaurin was even more hyped than him. And then, like a few seconds later, they panned back to Terry McLaurin on the sideline. He ripped off his helmet. He was yelling at everybody. I don't know exactly what he was saying, but it was definitely that type of like, bro, we can win this. These guys can't guard me. They are sorry. Can y'all step it up? I'm tired of carrying this team type of thing. He was super hyped. That was the leader that we've been looking for. I remember when we first drafted him, and even when he was good his rookie season, you know, he was good, but he didn't talk that much trash. He was kind of quiet, a little humble. He's been talking way more trash. Even this offseason in training camp, he was talking trash at times to Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, all of those guys. And today was the day that Terry McLaurin skyrocketed up my list of favorite players. If he continues to talk trash like that, he's going to be in some of my favorite players of all time, because again, I'm big on personality. For basketball, I don't really care about how efficient you are and how good of a player you are like that. Otherwise, KD would probably be my favorite player, or LeBron. But I'm a AI to Westbrook to Anthony Edwards, and it's Scoot Henderson about to pull up as well, even though that's biased. Anthony Edwards, Scoot Henderson, all from Atlanta, so there goes that bias. But either way, y'all can tell by the players I like, I care way more about their personality on and off the field in the court than like actual stats they put up. But if you're great, that adds to it. The arrogance, and Terry McLaurin stepping into that category. I would love nothing more than if a Washington Commander player gives me everything I want in a player, as far as balling out, talking trash, and walking with a certain walk and getting the team hype. I can't wait for Chase Young to get back healthy, because even he was on the sideline getting hype at one point, getting the crowd hype, his face scrunched up and everything. There was a different energy today, and that's what happens when Taylor Heinicke's your quarterback. I feel like Sam Howell can have the same effect, but either way, we weren't necessarily getting that with Carson Wentz for sure. But yeah, man, Terry McLaurin, man, keep doing what you do, man. I mean, even at the end of the game, you saw how he was talking trash to Jair Alexander, like, you can't guard me, like, type of stuff. At the end of the game, we were trying to run the clock out when we had the lead. It was like 2 minutes left in the game, like a little over 2 minutes, like under 3 minutes or something like that, and he got those first downs. He was talking crazy trash to Jair. I absolutely love it. I need all of that and more from him from now on. If he keeps that up, if that's like a consistent thing, if that's really him and this isn't an anomaly, Terry McLaurin's going to shoot up into my top 10 favorite players of all time, regardless of sports, because the talent is there. It's always just been, I mean, I like humility a little bit, but I need some Marshawn Lynch, some Marcus Peters, some Chad Johnson in you. I need some of that. I'm starting to get some of that, and I absolutely love it, especially when we play the Cowboys and he's talking like that to Trevon Diggs and he's balling out. Oh man, I would love nothing more. Moving on to the tight ends, again, Cole Turner was doing a good job of getting open between him and Scott Turner, getting them open. Whoever, he was getting open, and he was trying his best to catch those uncatchable passes from Taylor Heinicke. Again, Taylor Heinicke ended up getting that man hurt with a concussion by the way he threw the ball too high and too behind, but it is what it is. But I'm really excited about Cole Turner's future, because even that I think it was last game against the Bears for Carson Wentz, or it was the game before that, maybe against the Titans, where Carson Wentz overthrew him. He somehow, I mean, probably the only player on our team that could have made that catch. So it's in him. We just got to be a little bit less inaccurate. I'm not even going to say a little bit more accurate, because he wasn't accurate at all when throwing to Cole Turner ever at any point in this game. But just a little bit less inaccurate. Just put it a little bit lower for our guy with the best catch radius on our team to be able to get it. Come on now. So I feel sorry for him, because as soon as he got hurt after halftime, Taylor Heinicke just got slightly less inaccurate. But Armani Rogers was making plays. Y'all know me, man. I'm the biggest Armani Rogers fan out here, doing it outside of maybe his family and close friends. But out of the Commanders' regular fan base, I'm the biggest Armani Rogers fan out here doing it. And I'm so excited to see him getting involved. Thank you, Taylor Heinicke. If switching to Taylor Heinicke gets Armani Rogers involved, I would have been screaming for Heinicke's name way sooner. And then John Bates out there doing what he could. I mean, blocking. There was sometimes he got beat, but I remember one play vividly where he got beat. It was like, who do you block? Do you block the guy on the outside or the guy on the inside? I don't know if it was just bad blocking by the offensive line and John Bates was just left to block two people, or if it was Scott Turner, bad play call, bad play design. But either way, I don't blame John Bates for that at all. Every time I noticed him, he was playing pretty well and doing his job of blocking, except for that one play again. He was kind of like in no man's land. It wasn't really his fault. And then offensive line wise, ever since we went from Trey Turner to Sadiq Charles and Nick Martin to Tyler Larson, this offensive line has been way better. Now, granted, when Samuel Cosmi's fully healthy, I think he should move to guard. I guess you take over Andrew Norwell or Sadiq Charles' spot. I don't know, but Cornelius Lucas has been holding it down at right tackle. Charles Leno's been our most consistent offensive lineman, so he's good at left tackle. We're good. And even though Sadiq Charles got beat a couple of times this game, overall he was really good. So to have him as depth is excellent. And then Wes Schweitzer should be coming back sometime in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Samuel Cosmi is a good right tackle, one of the best run blocking right tackles already, arguably the best run blocking right tackle. But you move him to guard, he's an all-pro. Remember, Brandon Sheriff coming out of the draft, supposed to be a tackle, moved him to guard, all-pro. I think Samuel Cosmi literally could be the same thing. And Cornelius Lucas is holding it down out there on the right tackle spot. Only problem is we have way more depth in the interior offensive line than the exterior. So I think because of that, Samuel Cosmi is at least going to continue playing right tackle this year, because it's just Charles Leno, Samuel Cosmi, and Cornelius Lucas. That's it. If Samuel Cosmi's hurt, Cornelius Lucas or Charles Leno gets hurt, who do we really have to throw in there? Whereas interior, we got Tyler Larson technically as the backup, our starter right now. Chase Roulier, maybe we get him at some point. He's technically our starting center. Wes Schweitzer, we should be getting him back soon. Sadiq Charles is blocking well. Andrew Norwell looks better now. And then you still technically have Trey Turner. But we have way more interior offensive line depth than the exterior. So it does kind of suck for that reason. But I still want to see Samuel Cosmi at guard, because I really believe, truly believe he could be an all-pro there. But overall, good job offensive line. I mean, they've looked better. Now, granted, it's like a mix of, first of all, again, the substitutions we've made, changing certain players for certain players. That's improved this offensive line. Also, we've been going against less potent, less good defensive lines. Like the Bears defensive line, this Packers defensive line aren't as good and as dominant as the Eagles and the Cowboys, of course, and even kind of the Titans with Jeffrey Simmons. So of course the offensive line looks better naturally because of that, but I think they're also just playing better. They're starting to gain more chemistry because we're done plugging people in and out and stuff like that. This is probably the first game all season we've had the same exact offensive line for 2 weeks in a row, and I think that pays dividends. Offensive line takes a lot of chemistry, especially when a lot of defensive lines do a lot of stunts and stuff. That takes chemistry to stop, not talent. That takes communication and chemistry. And now that we're finally going out there with the same offensive line for consecutive weeks, I think that's making us improve as well. But again, we're also the beneficiary of not as good defensive lines. I'm not going to say they're bad. The Packers D-line isn't bad. The Bears D-line isn't bad, but they aren't as good as the previous ones we played that were dominating us. So I'm really interested to see how this offensive line performs for the rest of the season. They're still underperforming to what I thought they were going to be going into the season, but they've stepped up the past couple of weeks for sure. I mean, we simply just didn't score in that Bears game because of Carson Wentz, and it was a mix of him being hurt and just him playing bad. But either way, the offensive line was not really the fault in that Bears game for all of that struggle we were having on offense. More so Carson Wentz at that time, but for the rest of the season before that, it was the offensive line more than anything else. Scott Turner offensive line, you can exchange them one or two who's the most to blame. Probably offensive line the most part for real. And then Carson Wentz was like a strong third for who was the most to blame for why our offense wasn't scoring points. But recently, the offensive line's been stepping it up. Now going to the defense, dominant. The defense was dominant today. They're starting to, I'm not going to call them elite just yet because they got to go out there and do it consistently. But for what they did against an elite quarterback, now granted, gotta point out the fact that we were the beneficiary of a lot of dropped open passes for first downs too. These were first down drops from the receivers from the Packers, completely selling Aaron Rodgers. But even ignoring that, the defense balled out, man. Again, the Packers were 0 of 6 on third down, 0 of 1 on fourth down. They only had what? Let me go to Aaron Rodgers' box score. He was 23 of 35 for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns. No interception, but that's not an Aaron Rodgers stat line. Then the fact that they held Aaron Jones to 23 yards rushing and A.J. Dillon to 15 yards rushing, that's ridiculous. Their leading receiver was Allen Lazard with 55 yards. And was that? No, that might have been Sammy Watkins at the end right there, like the very last play right before the end of the game. They got all of those yards. But either way, man, we did a really good job of stopping Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Again, their receivers were selling, but even outside of that, the defense played lights out. Like I said, and this is the worry about the defense for me, we don't create turnovers. We're a suffocating defense, and we bend but don't break quite a bit. And, I mean, we make it look like it's impossible to move the ball at times, and that's great. You need that. But we also need to create turnovers. We're one of the worst turnover forcing defenses, if not the worst. We literally just don't force turnovers. I think we have like 3 forced turnovers all season. That's terrible. Tariq Woolen, the cornerback for the Seahawks, rookie, I think has 4 interceptions himself this season. Our entire defense has 3 turnovers. That's including fumbles, interceptions, everything combined. That's unacceptable. But After that, I mean, other than that, our defense is very suffocating. We're getting off the field on third downs, again 0 of 6 for the Green Bay Packers, and we've been good on third downs pretty much all year. I mean, outside of a couple of plays, generally on third downs, we've been really good on defense. And that was one of our main problems last regular season and even this preseason. I mean, the preseason we were struggling on third downs, but Jack Del Rio and the guys have figured something out. Benjamin St-Juste on the outside. We're gonna get to the corners later, but Benjamin St-Juste on the outside, Rashad Wild Goose in the slot is working. It's something that's working. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the William Jackson situation. If we end up trading them, I'm literally working on a video for that, so make sure you stay tuned for that. William Jackson and Deron Payne, whether we're going to keep them, extend them, or trade them, whatever, and what their trade value may be on the lookout for that video probably tomorrow. But either way, they figure something out in the defense. So and then forcing a lot of penalties too. Like, I mean, the poor Packers, man. We had some penalties too, especially that last drive, but they had 9 penalties for 69 yards. We had 7 for 54, and I'm pretty sure half of those penalties and yards came from that second to last drive where they scored that touchdown. And then there's just certain things you can't stop. That final touchdown by the Packers, that throw to Aaron Jones, even though Cam Curl did bite on it, that throw was just one of the best throws you're probably going to see this weekend. Like that was just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Jones, for some reason their receivers can't catch anything, but their 240-pound running back can make one-handed catches for touchdowns. I don't know. The team is backwards. But Cameron Curl, even though he bit early in the route on the double move, I think Cameron Curl had great coverage by the end of that. That was just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. So really outside of a lot of that stuff, that last scoring drive for the Packers where penalties kept bailing them out on third down, and then Cameron Curl, great coverage, but Aaron Rodgers just does Aaron Rodgers thing. Nothing you can do. Great offense always beats great defense. That's just simple. That's just how the NFL works. The way the rules are set up, the way the game is set up, all of that. Outside of that, and then that one drive earlier when they scored their first touchdown, the defense was really good, suffocating. Aaron Rodgers didn't really have anything open. They were slicing and dicing us up and dotting us up with the short passing game that first scoring drive. I mean, killing us. We just couldn't find any way to stop it. After we figured out how to stop that, it was over with. So, man, great job by the defense overall. But let's get to the individual. You know, we got a defensive line. I mean, not necessarily a standout performance from anybody, but again, they were going with a quick passing game, so it was really hard for Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, James Smith-Williams, Casey Till, F.L. Bada, all of those guys to really even have a strong impact in this game because, I mean, they were just getting the ball out quickly, throwing screens, doing everything they could to make sure Aaron Rodgers was safe. David Bakhtiari was hurt coming into this game, and they knew that statistically our defensive line has been the best front four in the NFL, according to pass rush statistics. We literally are leading the league in pass rush win rate when not blitzing out of the entire NFL, and it's like a nice gap between us and the guy in second place. So they knew, like, oh man, all they need to do is rush 4, and with David Bakhtiari out, they can kill us just doing that alone. No blitzing, no nothing. So what they decided to do, game plan wise, and it's smart from Matt LaFleur and those guys, to do a quick passing game. So they kind of neutralized our pass rush, but at the same time, when we got a little bit more aggressive on defense, nothing was open. If you pass the ball quickly, that means your receiver doesn't have enough time to get open. We started to clamp down. Good job. So it's really nothing much to take away from the defensive line because, again, they were schemed out of the game. It's really not their fault. Would love for them to still find a way to be impactful, but I think they were pretty good for the circumstances they had to deal with. Linebacker-wise, Jamin Davis was balling in the first half. Second half, I'm going to have to look at the All-22. Don't really remember his name being called. I really don't remember noticing him on the field, but I don't remember him making any bad plays. I think he played really well this game today. I remember him sticking out and making crazy, like, really good run defense plays in the first half. Even made a couple of plays in coverage, blew up a screen for like a loss of 5 or 8 or something like that at some point. He had a really good game today. Nice bounce back game after not having a good game against the Bears and not really having a good game against the Titans as well. Cole Holcomb played really well today. There was one time he was covering the offensive lineman. The first touchdown the Packers scored, that little throw to Aaron Jones underneath, like a little kind of forward screen in the middle of the field, that was technically Cole Holcomb's fault. Because everybody had a guy they were covering. If you freeze frame it at the moment that Aaron Rodgers started throwing the ball to Aaron Jones, and that's kind of unfair. Aaron to Aaron isn't fair. There has to be some orange juice from NBA 2K Synergy that's just cheating. They get like +5 to all their attributes having the same first name. But if you snapshot it right there, Cole Holcomb is literally covering the offensive lineman, like for no reason, not covering Aaron Jones, not covering anybody. I know he technically had a zone responsibility, but go please please go find somebody to cover. At the very least, be aware of the running back out of the backfield that likes to catch passes. So he was literally just out there covering the offensive lineman, and then when the ball was thrown, the offensive lineman was then able to engage with Cole Holcomb and just block him up. Cole Holcomb couldn't do anything to stop the touchdown. So that was one really bad play from Cole Holcomb. But outside of that, really good game today from him. Secondary, Kendall Fuller started to sail at the end, but throughout the rest of the game, I was pleasantly surprised by how well he was covering. Again, Rashad Wildgoose in the slot, man, he's making plays. Other than that one time he tugged, I think, on Alan Lazard's collar, he was really good today. Great pass breakups over the middle of the field on islands, like man-to-man coverage on an island, no help, out here making pass breakups. And even that time, he got the penalty for the collar. If he didn't grab the collar, he was right there. That was a great pass breakup. He literally didn't have to do that. Suffered from a little bit of William Jackson's issues, because I hate how much hate William Jackson's been getting. Because Kendall Fuller, when he gets beat bad. It's by 5 yards or more, like, what are you doing type of stuff. But William Jackson, when he's been getting beat, as long as it's what he's comfortable with, man coverage and not zone coverage, don't ask him to do zone coverage. You don't ask Kendall Fuller to man cover, don't ask William Jackson to zone cover, basically. But when in man coverage, when he was getting beat, at least he was there step for step. It would just be a random tug of the jersey, random hug of the waist, pull of the jersey. Like, it was just like stupid stuff. Like, why? You're there. You have them covered. What's the point of, like, pulling that penalty right there? You didn't need to. It would have been incomplete anyway. You right there. So Rashad Wildgoose suffered from that syndrome on that play, where you got him locked up. You don't even need to tug on the jersey. You were good. Pass breakup, all of that. Literally did everything right except for the tug. But overall, great game from Rashad Wildgoose. We may have found a gem in him, man. That may have been a great move to move on from Danny Johnson and those guys and pick up Rashad Wildgoose, because he's been a pleasant surprise in the slot. He hasn't necessarily been great. He hasn't been consistent, but today was his best game easily, and you're starting to see the potential of why they really like this guy. And then Benjamin St. Juice, he's our best corner right now, plain and simple. The pass breakups, doesn't matter if they go deep, underneath, left, right. He's doing everything, man. I think Benjamin St. Juice is balling out. What a steal in the third round. He's playing like a first-round corner, man. He's easily been the most consistent and best corner on our team. Man, I'm so happy to have him, especially for how long we have him. We have him at least for the next couple of years before we even think about contract talks. Thank goodness, man. He's balling. Cameron Curl, Bobby McCain, balled out today. Again, even that touchdown Cameron Curl allowed, he bit on the underneath move. But it is what it is, man. I mean, that was great coverage. Again, that was just an Aaron Rodgers throw. Only maybe three to five quarterbacks in the NFL could have made that throw, if that. Like, Taylor Heinicke, maybe. Like, the way he threw that Terry McLaurin touchdown, maybe he would have made that throw, but I wouldn't put my money on it for him to be able to duplicate what Aaron Rodgers did on that play. That's just good quarterback versus good receiver or running back, whatever, always beats a good DB every time. It's the way the NFL set up. It's okay. Move on from it. Other than that, Cameron Curl was really good today. Bobby McCain was really good today, man. I hate how much hate Bobby McCain gets for a lot of stuff. People just act like it's his fault. Bobby McCain played well today. And then the backup DBs, I mean, Percy Butler, nothing really noteworthy from those guys except for the fact that he barely touched the ball on that one time where we held the Packers to the 1 yard line on that punt. I mean, thank goodness. That was like a couple of centimeters away from being a penalty on Christian Holmes because he stepped out of bounds. You're not allowed to be the first guy to touch the ball after you walk out of bounds. So thank goodness Percy Butler barely grazed it. Game of centimeters made a difference in like 30 yards of field position. It's crazy. That's why we love the NFL right there. Little things like that can have such big consequences. But that's really the only thing I noticed from Percy Butler. I don't remember seeing him on defense like that, but that's just one of those things you got to watch the All-22. I'm going to have to watch the All-22 just to check up on my boy, because I'm really excited about Percy Butler, and I think he can end up being a really good DB, but he's just not ready. He's just simply not ready. I don't know where Derek Forrest was today, too. I'm used to him balling out, making plays, hard hits, making plays in coverage. Maybe I wasn't looking, but I didn't really notice him today. But that's a good thing. With DBs, not noticing they exist is excellent. That's literally what you want. Now, granted, Derek Forrest, with his ability to run stop and things like that and make plays against the run, I would have liked to have seen him make more plays, but maybe it just wasn't schemed up for him to do it. And with as well as the defense played today, whatever they did, keep doing it. Love you, Derek Forrest. Wish your name was called out there more times for positive reasons. But whatever you did must have worked, because again, if you don't notice a DB, if you forget they're even on the team, if you're like, oh, I haven't heard his name in a while, he's doing his job. It's that simple. And then special teams, again, Percy Butler, thank goodness. Tressway was punting his tail off, except for that final punt right there. But I think they told him to just kind of kick it high to waste time. Don't kick it as far as you can. See what happens. So I'm not mad. Other than that, Tressway balled out. Joey Sly, making me nervous. I don't know what happened. Last season, other than the blocked field goal, you were literally Mr. Automatic. It didn't matter what distance, what conditions, weather, you were making everything. I don't know why this year you're nervous and missing 47 yarders. That's supposed to be automatic. But either way, man, thank you for making the kicks that you did, but you got to get it together, bro. You can't be missing 47-yard kicks, bro. Those are literally supposed to be automatic, my boy. I mean, literally supposed to be automatic. But at the same time, he was still 3 or 4, making 3 field goals and 2 extra points. So, I mean, technically, he was, what, 11 of our points, so that's still pretty good, but you should have been 14 of them. You got to make the 47-yarders. We need that. There's going to be games where literally the game is on the line because of that. Honestly, that last drive by the Packers right there with the 20 seconds left shouldn't have even been a thing, because if you made your field goal earlier, we're up 26-21 and they have to score a touchdown, and that's virtually impossible in that situation. Even though Aaron Rodgers is the best Hail Mary thrower in NFL history, I don't know how it always ends up working out. And then after that, Antonio Gibson, love him on kickoff returns. Thank goodness. A little bit of explosion, a little bit of field position effect or something. Dax Milne, still want to change him for somebody else on punt returns, but I guess the search still continues for that. At least he doesn't muff punts like the Packers do. Thank goodness. This is the second consecutive week that we've had a muff punt bail us out. Now, granted, we only got 3 points from this game, but we literally only won that Bears game because of that muff punt. But that muff punt against the Packers today definitely helped give us a little bit of momentum and hope, because it would have been ugly. I think the score would have been like 14-0 if we didn't get that muff punt at that point. So we'll take it, man. We will definitely take it. But just an interesting statistic, with us recovering that muff punt, this is the first time the team, the Commanders, as a franchise, has recovered an opponent's fumble on a punt return in consecutive games since November 6th and 13th in 1983. That's crazy. And we needed every bit of it, because, I mean, you take away the 3 points from that muff punt, we lose the game technically. So, I mean, of course, it was early enough in the game to where anything could have happened, but without that muff punt, maybe we don't win the game. So, I'll take that bailout. I will take the bailouts any day. Also, speaking of bailouts, man, what was that one time they were reviewing something, Brian Robinson's fumble, and there has to be a time limit. If it takes you that long to review something, just stick with the call on the field. You have inconclusive evidence. I swear, if it were us on the other side, they wouldn't have reviewed it anywhere near that long. And I blame Dan Snyder for literally the reasons why we don't get calls and refs on one side a lot of the times. I literally blame him. If that were us, they wouldn't have reviewed that long. I'm sure of it, because I've never seen a review take that long for something so simple where you can literally just be like, you know what, we don't have enough evidence. Them boys was bringing in specialists from all over the world. They were bringing in their best guys from Arabia, bringing in guys from Europe, guys from Brazil. They were trying to bring in their smartest men, NASA scientists, to come figure out what that was. I mean, they were making calls, I don't know what that was, why it took so long. It literally has to be somewhat of a time limit on that. They were literally trying to do everything they could to give the Packers the ball right there. I think the Las Vegas bettors called in and was like, stall. We're going to get a guy that's really good at reviewing plays real quick. We got a guy in Indonesia that's really good at it. Let's just get him on the line. Let's see if we can overturn this somehow. It had to be something like that, because there's just no reason. I've never seen a review take that long. That was almost 3 commercial breaks worth of review. When they literally, I mean, it gets to a certain point where you're like, we don't have enough evidence, just leave the call on the field. I don't know why it took that long. But again, shouts out to Antonio Gibson for the kickoff returns. Love it. Dax Milne, still don't love him on punts, but at least he's not muffing punts like the Bears and the Packers did. Both NFC North opponents as well too, which is kind of crazy. Because of these muff punts, Dax Milne's stock is going up. Even though I hate him, and I'm gonna keep calling him automatic fair catch, because even when he doesn't fair catch, he doesn't go anywhere, so it doesn't matter. Might as well just fair catch everything. At least he's not muffing punts. So right now, sadly, Dax Milne's stock is going up. All of these opposing teams muffing punts is only just proving Rivera and the Commanders right, that Dax Milne needs to continue being our punter, because at least He doesn't muff punts. Conservative, passive, I know, but hey, at least we're not the Packers or the Bears. And Antonio Gibson, again, I love him on kickoff returns. Let him do it every time. We need that explosion on kickoffs, man. Absolutely love it. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video, whether you agree or disagree with any of my points. Definitely add any points that I didn't get a chance to discuss that I may have forgot about or didn't notice. And I appreciate all of the people that pulled up to the stream, man. Make sure y'all pull up every live stream for every regular season game. And again, I'm speaking into existence postseason game where I'm doing a live breakdown of everything going on to the game, during the game. Make sure y'all pull up for those, man, because it's always fun. It's funny. We end up talking about everything. We talked about Bowie Baysox hot dogs and Arby's. We talk about anime and literally everything. It's not just a football stream. So make sure y'all pull up for those, man, because we're always laughing and having fun. Whether we're winning or losing, we're laughing at something. We're laughing at ourselves or we're laughing at the other team, whatever. So yeah, make sure I pull up for those. And I appreciate everybody that pulled up to the stream, everybody in the chat. I try to read every comment. I'm definitely going to read every donation. Shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel as well during the streams. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors. Name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Shouts out to all of my recent sponsors and any current sponsors that extended their membership. Shouts out to all of y'all, man. I appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.